Hey, boys and girls, how are y'all doing? I wanted to start out right here. Okay, this is a term that I wanted to keep saying yesterday, and I kept remembering that we haven't talked about this term this week, and I didn't want to throw it out, and then everyone go, "Oh, I don't remember what that is exactly." So here's where we're going to start because today we are going to really dive into how multiplication and division are related. Okay, start reading with me right here where it says multiplication and division are opposite operations or what we call inverse operations. Okay. And remember how we looked at, if you look right here with me, we looked at 6 times 3 equals 18. Or if we were to read that backwards or in the opposite way, we could go 18 divided by 3 equals 6. Okay, and that is for every multiplication and division problem where you have equal groups like this. They're inverse operations. Okay, you can flip it to find the answer. That's why it was so important that we learned our multiplication facts, because we're going to be using those multiplication facts to use as inverse operations. If you look at division and you don't know the answer off the top of your head, but you know all of your multiplication facts, then yes, you do. You know the answer because it's in here, okay? So we're going to study those a little bit more today, and we're going to work through a couple of these problems. I just wanted to start right there on that. And today they're going to use arrays a lot. And remember, an array is, if you have forgotten what an array is, it's where we have, you see how these are organized into rows and columns. We used these a lot in multiplication, and we're also going to use them in division a little bit today, okay, and how we relate the two together. Okay, so let's start right up here just to get started. It says you can use an array to see how multiplication and division are related. Show an array with 18 counters and 3 equal rows by completing the drawing. So they've told me exactly what I need to do. Let me get my pen ready. It says to draw 18 counters. They've already drawn 3, and they've started the 6 for us. Woo. I told you. Sorry about my circles, guys. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and hopefully yours are much neater and in much better rows. Where am I at? 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I have drawn 18 of my counters, and I kept them in 3 rows. Remember, columns, if you think about a column on like the front of a building, column goes up and down. So columns in our arrays always go up and down, straight up and down. Our rows go across, and we made sure that we only had 3 rows, although my rows are a little messy because I'm doing it on my computer. So there are how many counters inside each row? We only put 6 per row. And you always want to go back and make sure that you only put the same number in each row. I shouldn't have 7 in the first row and then 5 in the second row. It needs to be the same because it has to be equal groups. So it needs to be equal rows as well, okay? So that tells me that 18 divided by 3 for those 3 rows is 6. Now, over here on this side, it says that same array that we already drew can be used to find the total number if you know there are 3 rows with 6 counters. So remember when we looked at multiplication, we said over here I have 3. And I don't know how many columns I've got to make, but I know 3 times. Remember, that corner makes a pretty X for us. And then I can go 6 across. So 3 times 6 equals 18. And since I can use multiplication and division for that array, it just helps us to prove that it is an inverse operation. That the array just kind of proves the point that I can use it for division or multiplication. So if you're struggling seeing how division and multiplication have anything to do with one another, then this would be a good way for you to start jogging your memory, is drawing these arrays out when you do a division problem and then looking to see that it's also a multiplication problem in there, okay? So let's do another one real quick. Okay, this one down here, we're going to jump down to 2, 3, and 4. So what I want you to do is I want you to get a piece of paper. We're actually doing 2 through 6. I'm so sorry. What I want you to do is get you a piece of paper, and I do want you to draw these out today. And what we're going to do is you can pause the video, and I want you to draw exactly what you see for 2 through 6. Okay, this is very similar to what you're going to see on your assignment on Google Classroom. So it'll be better if you can practice it with me so that you can do the other part, really easy and fluently. Okay, so I hope you've got your tools ready to get started. And we're going to look at number 2. Now, I know I have 3 rows. Remember, rows go across, columns go up and down like the front of a building's columns go up and down, okay? So I have 3 rows of how many in my array? I have 3 rows of 5. And that equals how many counters I have in all. And if you were to count, if you don't know that 3 rows of 5 would give me 15, then you could count the counters. You can, go 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So when I have filled in this top part right here, it should help me to fill this in. If I have 3 rows of 5 that equal 15, then 3 times what equals 15? 3 times 5. Now remember, when we look at multiplication, you can look at it backwards. You can look at 15 divided by either of those two numbers is going to give you the other number, okay? So if I have 15 divided by 3, what is my answer going to be? 5. It's going to be that other number in your multiplication, your other factor, okay? So this is just showing me how these are related, how multiplication and division go hand in hand. Let's do this next one. Remember, rows go across, columns up and down, okay? So if I have 2 rows, remember when we did arrays, we said this corner kind of makes a perfect place to put my multiplication sign. So I can say 2 times how many across? Count those for me really quick. 2 times 6. Okay, so if I have 2 rows of 6 to give me 12, then that should just remind me that 2 times 6 equals 12, okay? When I'm looking at my inverse operation, that related operation here, I can do 12 divided by 2 should give me this number right here. If you answered it correctly, then it's right. 12 divided by 2 equals 6. Okay, now let's look at the last one. This one, let's see, I have 3 rows. 3 rows of something should give me 21. Can you predict what that will be without counting them? If you can't, then let's count them together. And I remember that I've got an X there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 3 rows of 7 should give me 21. So 3 times 7 is 21. And if I divide 21, if I divide it by those 3 rows, then I will have 7 in each row. Guys, it may seem really simple, but there was a time this was a little bit harder for you guys to remember how it was related, okay? So now what they're going to do is they're not going to give you an array. Now they're going to take our array away. I sound like Dr. Seuss. But what they're going to do is they're going to take it away. And what you can do is if you can't think of this off the top of your head, then what you can do is draw it out. You have that piece of paper where you were supposed to draw 2, 3, and 4. If you can't figure out what the related fact is because you don't know your multiplication or your division facts, then what you can do is draw out your array and then fill in the missing number, okay? And as long as you find the answer to the multiplication or to the division, then you found the answer for both because that's the missing number that they pulled, the same one from both, okay? So let's look at number 5. I have 5 times blank equals 40, which also would be 40 divided by 5 equals that same blank, okay? They kept the 5 the same, so I know that missing number is also going to be the same, okay? So if I don't know what 40 divided by 5 is, then I can also think of multiplication. 5 times what equals 40? Now, if you still don't know and you can't skip count by 5s, then what you can do is draw out 40 counters, okay? And you're going to do them in rows of 5 because 5 is that number they gave me. And you'll see how many can go inside each row, okay? So I can skip count by fives. So if you can't and you need to draw the array, you can pause the video now and then come back once you have found your answer, and then we'll check to see if you got it right. So skip count with me if you can, and it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So 5 times what equals 40? 5 times 8. Since I have a full multiplication problem right here, I can fill in my division problem now. 40 divided by 5 will be that same missing number, okay? So 40 divided by 5 is 8. Okay, now let's look at number 6. 6 times blank equals 18, or 18 divided by 6 equals blank. They left that, the missing number is the same in both problems because they left the 18 and the 6 exactly where they should be. So I know that the missing number is going to match, okay, because they are related. They'll have the same 3 numbers. They're just constructed in different ways, okay? So if you don't know what 6 times blank equals 18 is, then you could draw your array. And if you need to do that, you can press pause now and jump back on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip count. Well, we'll do it. Let's do it with adding. Let's do adding for this one, okay? If I do 6 plus 6 for 6 times 2, then I will have 12, okay? Still not there, but I'm getting really close. If I add another 6 to 12 to do 6 times 3, then that will get me to 18. So 6 times 3 equals 18, or 18 divided by 6 will get me to 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign some problems very similar to this on your Google Classroom. You'll fill that in and then just send it in to me, okay? It's pretty easy, but this is something that I just want to refresh our memory, make sure we remember how to do, and I know you guys are going to do awesome and just fly through it, so it shouldn't take you long. And then you can practice your multiplication and division related or inverse operations. You can practice those on Math Prodigy today if you have a few extra minutes, okay? Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.